Ladies and gentlemen, we have to bring you some deeply shocking and tragic news that has just come through to us. We have a press release from the Irish Rugby Football Union and a statement on the sudden death of Munster rugby coach Anthony Foley. It is with deep regret that the Irish Rugby Football Union and Munster Rugby must advise of the passing overnight of Munster Rugby head coach Anthony Foley at the team hotel in Paris. Munster Rugby management are liaising directly with Anthony's family and will provide them with any assistance and support required. The IRFU and Munster Rugby pass on their deepest sympathies to all of Anthony's family and friends and ask for privacy for the family at this sad time. As a mark of respect to Anthony and his family and to support the players, management and staff, Munster Rugby have requested that today's match against Racing 92 be rescheduled. Munster Rugby thank Racing 92, they thank EPCR broadcasters and partners and the many fans who have travelled to Paris for their understanding and support at this time. Anthony Foley was 42 years of age and a widely respected rugby man in Munster, in Ireland and around the rugby world. Understandably, former teammate Alan Quinnan has left the studio and is headed home, and I guess all I can ask at this time is for your initial reaction, Tyrone.
Just sitting beside Quinny, watching the game and the news coming through, it's very hard to find words. Forgetting rugby, what I remember about Anthony is sort of twinkling eyes and smile and great sense of fun. He'd get the giggles and everybody would just giggle with him. He was a big man, not a sort of a big man that's created in a gym. He was just genuinely a big guy, and he was big in every way. He had a big personality. He had a big sense of humour. He was generous to a fault, and he was one of the heartbeats of everything that's good about Munster rugby. In Ireland, the 4 provinces, we try and beat the living daylights out of each other when it comes to on the pitch, but it's a big family. And certainly Anthony, his father was part of the 1978 Munster team that beat the All Blacks. With his dad, Brenton, Anthony, they're Munster royalty as a family. They're one of the greatest families you'll ever come across. So it's in terms of shock, the things that strike me are just about the bloke himself. There'd be lots and lots written about his rugby, but you look at the Munster team that he played in. You look at that Munster pack. Keith Wood, Frankie Shane after Keith, Marcus Horan, John Hayes, Donnacha O'Callaghan, Paul O'Connell, Davy Wallace, Quinny, and Anthony at number 8. You're talking about one of the greatest club forward packs that there's ever been. He's just he was a magnificent bloke. He was a magnificent rugby player, and the level of shock is hard to put into words.
Of course. So just to reiterate, it is with deep regret and sadness that we pass on this message. The press release has come to us from the Irish Rugby Football Union, a statement on the sudden death of Munster rugby coach Anthony Foley. And I'm going to reiterate, I'll just reread the words that have just come through to us. They've just come through in the last few moments. It is with deep regret that the Irish Rugby Football Union and Munster Rugby must advise of the passing overnight of Munster Rugby head coach Anthony Foley at the team hotel in Paris. We don't know any more with regards to circumstances or background at this point in time. Munster Rugby management are liaising directly with Anthony's family and will provide them with any assistance and support required, his wife Olive and 2 young boys. The IRFU and Munster Rugby pass on their deepest sympathies to all of Anthony's family and friends and ask for privacy for the family at this sad time. As a mark of respect to Anthony and his family and to support players, management and staff, Munster Rugby have requested that today's match against Racing 92 be rescheduled. Munster Rugby thank Racing 92 EPCR broadcasters and partners and the many fans who have travelled to Paris for their understanding and support at this time. Now, we're hoping to speak with some members of our team who are on site over in Paris. In fact, I'm being told that Stuart Barnes is actually standing by He's made his way down to the ground. Stuart, I'm sure you share our shock and disbelief at this news in Paris.
Jimmy, it's appalling. There's an aura just settling over this ground now of real sadness. I was listening to Tyrone's word there. Yes, there's a rugby community in Ireland, in Munster. There's a rugby community, as you know, as a Kiwi, full stop, around the world. And this is going to hurt everyone, none more so, of course, than Anthony's family. But this is one of the great men of recent Irish rugby. You know, this is a European Champions Cup day. Anthony would probably think of it as a Heineken Cup day. When there was the first 15 years of this tournament completed, we sat down and said, what is the best team of them all? And Anthony Foley beat the likes of Lawrence Dallaglio to beat the number 8. Along with men like Paul O'Connell and Ronan O'Gara, who of course is now here coaching at Racing 92. O'Foley was at fulcrum point in that greatest of Munster teams. And again, I heard Tyrone talking about the bloke he was. You know, I didn't know him as well as Tyrone and certainly Alan Quinlan, but every time I met him, it didn't matter whether you'd criticised him in press or in commentary, he'd shake your hand, big firm handshake, big smile, a pint afterwards. An uncomplicated man who became an integral part of the Munster coaching team. This is a hammer blow for Munster. It's a hammer blow for Ireland. It's a hammer blow for rugby. He's too soon gone.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, we can only speak from the side that we come at it from, Stuart, which is covering rugby. Yeah. That's the game that we're involved in. He has many family, friends and family. But in terms of the club man, what he put back into Munster, you mentioned the fact that he's come back to coach. This is a one club man. This is a guy who gave his all, his heart. That's where he's from.
Old-fashioned in the sense, you know, he believed in Munster. He wasn't a man who was looking for a contract here or there. He came out of the soil of Munster, and it's just a terrible sadness that he's going back into that soil too early. But he was an epic warrior, a real hero for Munster. It's really hard to know what to say. It's hard to articulate it without going back to the past. I'm trying to think of Anthony Foley alive and playing and smiling and just picking up that ball and taking Munster to places nowhere ever believed that Munster could go in Europe. And I think immediately what I'd like to think about Foley is Foley in his pomp, thinking like everyone else about his immediate family. But I think a tribute to Anthony is to just remember what a great man he was and what a great player he was, and above all, what a Munster man he was and always will be.
Thank you for your thoughts, Stuart. We may come back to chat with you in Paris in due course. Of course, that game has been postponed for later on this afternoon. Alan Quinlan has left the studio to return home early. It is with very deep hearts that and heavy hearts that we inform you of the passing overnight of Anthony Foley, 42 years old, wife Olive and 2 young boys.